Hi, Kristen.
Hey Janine, how are you doing?
Good, good. I'm so excited. I'm feeling really inspired, especially like this month. We've been talking about creativity and, you know, and it's so incredible, like how creativity has had this like resurgence in my life, like in this chapter of, my life. Like I feel a lot more creative now than I have since I was like a kid. And I think it's just
Oh,
really cool for other people too. Like I see like people taking a chance like on their creativity after having like these careers doing things that are maybe, I mean, I'm sure that they're creative in their own ways, but they are not like artists or something like that, right? So,
exactly.
like a data scientist or a lawyer, I mean, they have creative avenues like within their jobs, but they're not like quote unquote what we think of as like an artist, right? And
Exactly.
so taking that leap into creativity is, something that you really have to know yourself and you really have to believe in yourself in order to do. And
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's why I'm so super excited about our guests this week because, we've been talking about creativity all month, and these two artists really sort of crystallize what it can mean to go from that sort of more, tech or almost academic, like very intellectual sort of career, and then shift into something that is creative. Not that being creative isn't intellectual, but it's very different. It's a different way to use your brain, and it's also a very different like identity that you're taking on.
mhm.
So it's a very vulnerable place to put yourself in, and I'm really excited to talk to them about how they navigated it.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I find it so inspiring to hear these kinds of stories, and we're really excited to see like how these women put that into practice in their own lives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
me
let's go
too.
talk to them.
Let's do it.
Yay. Hi, welcome to the Closet Philosophy Podcast. This is Janine. I'm a personal stylist.
And this is Kristen. I'm a fashion writer, and we're here to uncover the ways that your personal style is so much more than just clothes.
Whether you realize it or not, what you wear touches on science, psychology, culture, politics, and so much more.
So we have two guests today with an incredibly diverse set of backgrounds who have both landed on extremely creative career paths. Erin Hupp is a former child welfare and land use lawyer who currently operates Erin Hupp Ceramics in the San Francisco Bay Area. She creates gorgeous pieces, unique dinnerware and lighting for restaurants and other clients. Subikksha Balaje grew up in Chennai, India, and made her mark in big tech in the Bay Area before pivoting to launch her jewelry brand Gold Stories in San Francisco. Erin and Subikksha recently collaborated on a fine jewelry collection, which transformed some of Erin's signature pieces into silver and gold future heirlooms. Erin and Subikksha, we are so excited to hear your stories. Welcome to Closet Philosophy.
Thanks for
Thank
having us.
you.
Yeah, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. Yeah, I loved your collaboration. So I would love to learn more about how the two of you met and like how did you decide to collaborate?
Well, it's really fun. I feel like San Francisco is like the smallest big city ever, and we kept on running into each other.
Mm.
One of the times that we ran into each other, I had my fold plates as mirrors, sort of a mirror wall installation at the 7x7 gallery when that was doing a Vacant to Vibrant pop-up in downtown San Francisco.
Mm.
And Subiksha often, like offhandedly mentioned, like, "Oh, look at that! Wouldn't that look great as a ring?" And we were
I
both
often do
like,
that too.
we were both like, "Wait a minute!" And what was it? Almost a year later that we actually
Yeah.
started,
No,
that
I
didn't take a lot of time.
yeah, Erin was very good at follow through. She texted me saying that actually was a cool idea. We should try doing it. And then 1 year later, ta-da, we have the whole collection. But I had been eyeing Erin's work for a long time. Like she said, it's a small big city, and I had used her caviar dishes for
Mm.
displaying jewelry earlier in the year for some of my trunk shows, and it looked beautiful. Like it was the organic shapes and the folds. It just wouldn't like get out of my head, I just blurted it out in at the installation at 7 by 7, and it started all over from there. And then it was supposed to be a ring, and then it became a full collection. We were like, oh, it would look nice as a necklace, and then a earring. And how about colors that we both like, and also silver? Erin loves silver, and I was just launching into silver. So it was quite organic, and we took our time with it. So it was very intentional. There was no like, oh, we're going to do this for marketing purposes. There was no hidden agenda there. It was just like
Mm.
two people coming together, and
Like, for
it clicked.
example, I loved when you called me and you're like, I was rolling the roti for dinner, and I had this amazing idea of how we're going to hide the bail in the necklace portion. You want to describe that? Because I thought that was so much fun. And this is, we would just like call each other randomly with these really organic, like fun ideas. And this is one of my favorites. Do you want to explain it?
Yeah, so roti is like a tortilla, and you should often roll it to make it into a perfect round. Mine are never round, but kind of round. But when I was rolling it is when the dough got stuck on the pin, and I was like, wait a minute, it looks like a fold. And then the
Mm.
pin was under, and I was like, oh, we could do the same for the
Ah,
necklace. So
yeah.
I'm
Oh, and that
already showing it
moves.
to you. So the necklace just goes into the fold without having a separate bail to hang it off. So yeah, we had a lot of
Oh.
creative bursts like that. And I just thoroughly enjoy when things like that happen in a collaboration.
Yeah, and that seems really natural. Like, of course, like, yeah,
Yeah.
it just
Now that
works.
you think about it, right? Like at
Yeah.
that point, we were like drawing like a small little extension on top. And I was like, why
Oh
did we
my
do
God.
that?
It took the
Yeah.
roti to get you guys
Yeah.
there. That's amazing.
I love that story because it's like that's what like creativity is. It's just like being able to see something in one context and say like, "Oh, wouldn't it be cool if it was some in a different context?"
Yeah.
And it sounds like that's something that you just do really naturally.
It's kind of nice. I try to explore. So maybe I think it's not having the background or a clear path to where I'm at today. I often look for inspiration in the oddest places, and sometimes it's rotis, and sometimes it's beautiful art by folks that I get to work with. I like it. I learned to embrace it much later on, though. I thought I was very weird or quirky when I used to do this at a younger version of myself. But as I got older, I got to get comfortable thinking a little out of the box, or,
And I think
random thoughts like that.
collaborations really help with that. It's one of the reasons why it's a huge cornerstone of my art practice, because thinking out of the box, I think people that are not in your field help you do that.
Yeah.
They help you. It's sort of like that idea of a beginner's mind. You can get so stuck in your craft that you can almost like get stuck on like, well, do we do it that way or do we not do it that way? And when somebody comes fresh, and Subi's like, well, what if we did it this way? Or I asked Subi, and it just sort of makes you think a little bit out of the box. I think that's what's the beauty of collaboration.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I just kind of before we get into the next question, I just think that is so interesting because like one of the things that people talk about with personal style, and I hear this a lot, is like style for style's sake or style about style or meta style. It is never good. And so like having it applied to different like fields, like, for example, Princess Anne and her equestrian outfits and stuff like that. Like
Mm.
she actually rides horses and like
Makes
she needs
sense.
to
Yeah.
wear these things. And so you looking outside of, your own like craft into like other crafts and to see like, okay, so, what kind of like I don't want to say problems we can solve, but what kind of like solutions can we come up with by just collaborating? And
Yeah.
like in just like that, having that bail thing is like one of those solutions, which I think is like really cool.
And also, just like Subi said, I'm really into mixing metals right now. I feel a lot of freedom in that because I think when we were the younger versions of ourselves and old thought is like you were all gold or all silver, and that mixed metal phase has not been around for a really long time. And so when I was like, well, what if we do silver? I feel like that launched you into a little bit of like opening up gold stories to silver as
Yeah,
well. So
100%. I think that conversation is what I was holding on to my silver collection for a while, and it was our collaboration and also gold prices skyrocketing. I was like, wait, why not?
Mm,
Right? But you're absolutely right, When I think looking at other crafts or other craftspeople on how their thought process works
mhm.
sets the tone differently from what you've been thinking like on an everyday basis. And I think um, I I love doing it just the way Erin does. I've tried to bring interior designers into Gold Stories, painters, and different walks of life just to see how they envision jewelry or what jewelry means to them, rather than just taking the existing pieces or existing art and converting. It's more like, how can we make this into a wearable piece of art?
like a whole new thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. Well, so both of you have had very different backgrounds compared to your creative work that you're doing now. So I'd love to hear those stories. Maybe, Erin, we could start with you. You were a lawyer and working with foster children. And so how did you decide to focus on a creative career and how and what kind of identity shift did that create? And like, did it feel vulnerable? Like what was that process like for you?
incredibly vulnerable. So I have a master's in city and regional planning and a law degree. I did a dual degree program at UNC Chapel Hill and invested a lot of time and effort and passion and love in that career. And whenever you do that, whether it's what I did or any other career, it's a little bit hard to let go, right? It's hard to
Hmm.
say it's okay to shed that former self of me and embrace another part. So I've been throwing pottery, and clay has been my solace since I was 17-ish. And so through law school, I even taught art classes on the side. And when I was supposed to, I would have summer internships at firms, but I would also be teaching pottery classes on the side. And so to me, it was right around when I turned 38. It was almost like revisiting an authentic version of myself, which is very vulnerable and very scary and also absolutely transformative. It felt to me like a midlife enlightenment, not a
Wow.
midlife crisis. In fact, what it felt like is, how we have all these layers to ourselves, and I was peeling back and feeling like I was really hitting an emotional wall with the child welfare law work that I was doing, to the point that I was asking him, do I have enough reserves in me to help these children anymore?
Mm,
So I started thinking, like, well, what else would I do? And this complete abandonment of a legal career was scary financially, but also identity. I think a lot we need to talk about how much we wrap our identity in our careers. And so to shed that, and as far as my artist identity, I'd always decided I was sort of like a craft person, a hobby person. If you were one of my good friends, you would receive ceramic mugs. And so to shed this identity as a lawyer and all that time and passion that I had put in and put on the identity, embrace the artist in me, was actually incredibly transformative. It took a couple years of extreme vulnerability. I mean, people would still ask me, like, what are you doing? You're no longer a lawyer. And I'd say something like, just, back to my hobby. Like, I couldn't even say
yeah.
I'm an artist now. I'm doing this full time. I think it's really interesting, that imposter syndrome that we can have, or that, I don't know, we wrap ourselves so much up in our careers that when we do a major shift like that, I think it can be a little bit disorienting. But then, like all good things, you do the work and you put the effort in, and the other side is that much sweeter because you were vulnerable, because you really looked inside yourself and took a deep dive. And for me, that was becoming a full-time artist. I'm living my best life right now.
Was there a point where you were like, okay, I'm gonna stop calling this my hobby and I'm gonna tell people like this is my work, this is my career?
It was actually at my husband's work holiday party. And that's when you get a lot of questions when you're
Yeah.
in a stranger scene. It's a big party. Well, what do you do? Right? Over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
I remember halfway through the night, I was like, I'm going to start practicing. I'm going to say, like fake it till you make it. I believe that when we speak our intentions, they become reality. I'd like to believe that in life. And so I just started introducing myself. Well, and really, let's be honest, by then I was really an artist. It wasn't like I was faking it, but like
Yeah.
it was so scary just to say it. So I
Because
said,
it's like you're claiming an identity. You're not just saying
exactly.
words.
You're
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
just no,
Yeah.
and like, and I only say what I mean. That's really like the way I live my life. And so for me, it was really transformative to be like, I'm an artist, you know, I'm full-time artist. I work with ceramics. I do ceramics. At the time, I was doing coffee shops and just starting to get my toe into to restaurants. And it was really lovely to sort of exercise that muscle.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And Subi, I would love to hear your story. I know you were in big tech, and so that was
Mhm.
also a huge shift and I'm sure an identity shift.
Yeah, identity shift for sure. I actually agree with Erin. Like we tie our careers so much so to who we are, and I have multiple layers on why or how I even did it culturally. Coming from India, being in tech is like you've succeeded. You've gone into the lane that's meant for a South Asian woman, and I was in data science, so what better, right? And I didn't get there straight away either. I started at tech at 19, so it was right out of college. Went into one of the big tech companies that everyone dreams of working at that time, and slowly grew into the data space, and then made it into data science when data science wasn't cool just yet.
Mhm.
So I was like, oh, now people study for it and come to it. I just had statistics and mathematics in my background. So it still took a while to get there. And I did feel like an imposter getting through till that point. And then I reached it and I finally made a name, got a team, did all the things that were supposed to be done in the order that it was supposed to be done. And then I was like, I don't know. I still don't feel it. Like I'm not feeling fulfilled. And kind of very similar to Erin, I always had some art or culture through course of my entire childhood. Like I started dancing at 3, and then I trained to be a professional Bharatanatyam dancer. I did it all the way through college. And then I got into theater when I was in college, and that was my, if anybody was like, oh, that's what she's gonna do, I was not good at sitting in class and learning subjects. Like that was not, it was actually more shocking for people when I said I'm gonna be a data scientist and I'm moving into this company. So when I said I'm moved on and I've become a jewelry designer, people who knew me growing up were like, oh, that makes more sense.
Oh,
I
interesting.
loved putting outfits together. I loved dressing up for an occasion. I love overdressing. I like my big jewelry, big hair, big clothes moment. And I could moved to San Francisco for my tech job, but I think there was a little more of a second layer of imposter syndrome that came in that time as an immigrant. I was like, oh my God, am I wearing like I wear linens and I wear cotton and I wear prints that are kind of Indian motif or from an Indian designer almost everywhere to whatever I'm going to. There's a touch of that. And I kind of felt like I'm kind of not fitting in, but I felt okay not fitting in. It took me a while. It's still a work in progress, I would say, but I would go like that to my big tech conferences with my outfits and with my look. And I've had people say, are you really in data? So like, you don't look it. And I
Whoa.
was like, well, let me wear my big glasses to make up
Yeah.
for it. But I did love my big glasses too. Like I collect
Yeah.
glasses. It's like a thing that I do. But yeah, so that was my second. And then the third was getting pregnant with my son. And that was when I was like, I really need to switch something around here. I'm not feeling
Mm.
it. And the timing was it's perfect's not probably the right word. It was pandemic. So it was like everything was shut down. We were all in a cocoon locked in, and it gave me a lot of time to think about what I'm doing. And I don't think data and jewelry world is very different for me. I told a lot of stories with data. Like my numbers were converted into stories for the company to make decisions. And with jewelry, I connected back to it. And then that's why the name Gold Stories. I feel like when people wear pieces, they're not just wearing pieces, there's some story behind it, who gave it to you, the design, the time of life you were at when you purchased it, especially when it's fine jewelry. It's almost investment. So Gold Stories happen to just feel like the right fit. And then I'm still in work in progress. I change my introduction every few times. So Erin, I'm learning to do it. I do it at every party a little differently to see how it feels like a good flow to say who I am and what I do. I also think a lot of people are like, oh, are you planning to go back to being a data scientist? Like AI is booming. And I was like, sure, why not? But I actually like what I'm doing. And even though the financial part is scary, just given how much money is being thrown around at big tech, especially for roles that I held in the past,
Mm.
I would be lying if I say I don't like think about it for a second. I do. Every time I meet someone I've hired or worked with, or or my supervisor who's now at a very high position or something of that sort, and I just run the numbers in my head out of not out of choice, just out of practice, and I'm like, oh damn, what are we leaving at the table? But yeah, Gold Story is fully bootstrapped. I put in all whatever I made and saved and all of that, complete risk into this world that I love. And I am learning to how to not have imposter syndrome in this new world of mine. I try to be myself more, so I think it happens more naturally here. I don't have anyone to please. It's my world. I do what I want, not in a rude like.
I love that so much, Subi. It's my
Yeah, I
world,
was like,
I want.
it's just like, this is what it is.
Yeah.
And, learning to embrace it is where I'm at currently.
Mm. That's awesome.
Yeah.
It sounds like you're sort of comfortable being uncomfortable.
I
Like
do.
you've
I find
learned that
myself
you've learned
constantly
that.
doing that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's huge. And it's hard, especially like in the Bay Area where it seems like, even though San Francisco has a history of like really valuing the arts, like how it is if you're in San Francisco, it almost seems like if you're not working at one of the big four tech companies, like the light goes out of people's eyes when
Yeah.
you tell them what you
Yeah.
do, and it's kind of like it is kind of like when you're used to getting
Yeah,
that.
and I think it's also a bubble, right? Like when
Yeah.
you're in, like 90% of my friends are friends who are in tech, because
Mhm.
it's over 13 years of building this network. So now I'm loving bumping into folks like Erin and you guys at parties and events, and I'm
Yeah.
like, this is my people, this is my crew. They're also my people, my crew, but I think there's a sense of comfort in being around creatives. Like you said, it's just the majority in this city is tech now. So to find that smaller group of creatives, which absolutely right, I'm constantly questioning that. As a city that's so big on craft and art and creativity, we don't see as many people. I feel like the Silicon Valley crowd is much higher than the other side.
But
Mhm.
I don't know, don't you guys feel like that's changing? I feel like it's not only changing, but it's changing with us, like women 40 and over, really supporting creative bubbles in San Francisco and the Bay Area. I feel like there's this huge trend. I feel like we're right where there's a wave coming.
Yeah.
Feel that a little bit, like more, way more. I mean, I can't go to all of the events that I've been invited to this holiday season. Like, I just feel like there's this beautiful creative momentum and sort of creative circle that's building in the city. We're gonna give tech a run for their money. We're gonna increase the numbers.
Kind of need them for the money though.
And honestly, though, like I say that, but like, I think where we connect is actually really fascinating. I have a friend who's working on art, sort of displaying and focusing on local art on Waymos.
Oh.
Sort of that is a project. Like think about where does like where does a local artist intersect with tech? I actually think it's sort of an interesting field that could be coming up.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to become more and more important, like as, like automation takes over a lot of different roles or transforms roles. I don't think that robots are going to take over. I think that it's going to be somewhere in between the robot overlords and, you
Yeah.
know, like destruction of AI. Like I think there's going to be something that happens that's not like what people are predicting, but I do think it's going to change things. And I think one of those things that it's going to change is our relationship to creativity and what makes us human. And so with both of your disciplines, like with like jewelry design and ceramics, like they really can't be done. I mean, I guess you could feasibly design something
Yeah.
with AI for jewelry, but like
Yes,
actually
another.
producing it, like I don't know if
You
that's
can
like,
even probably produce it. In all honesty, you can have the CAD design done there, and then you could probably have it 3D printed. But I feel like there's so much to a hand holding a piece and working with it, like,
mm,
just finishing off something in a certain style or setting a stone. I don't see, like, I learned how to make jewelry to be able to talk to my bench jewelers, and I still wear the pieces I make, but not sell it. And I let the professionals who've been doing it for generations do it because these are artisans. They know how to do it. I feel like this topic comes often. I think design, there's room for AI to interpret design, but I don't think it's going to be replacing artists or designers. And I could
mhm.
go on about the
I,
debate, but I feel like everyone here agrees with me on that particular. Like, I like the innovation that AI is bringing, and it could make some things easier, but
Mhm.
I don't think it can. Creative part of the human brain is like so chaotic, it's hard to replicate it.
I
Yeah.
also feel like something you said earlier about storytelling, I think that's important. What do we find meaning in every day, right? So like my favorite mug, the vase that I always put flowers in, is it just the look of it? It's not. It's I bought it on vacation. I met the artist. There's a
Mhm.
story behind each of these things. Even outfits that we buy, we started with the scarf. It's from my friend Aicha made it. It has a story behind it. I feel a connection to it. And I think as AI becomes more prevalent, those stories actually will mean more because they'll
Yeah,
be less frequent.
But like also too, it's like your ability to be inspired does
yeah,
not happen in AI. So
yeah.
like an AI could never be making roti and you know see the fold and say like, oh, that would be a perfect bail for a necklace. Like
Yeah,
it would never draw that line unless you told it to draw that line. And like you
100%.
telling it to draw that line, that's coming from a human. It's not coming from a
Mhm,
computer.
mhm.
So like that, I think that that's like a really interesting thing is like how like collaboration creates these new lines of conversations and stories that can't be replicated, which I think is going to be more important going into the future, especially in like technical places like where we're living now. Yeah, so I've actually like dabbled in ceramics and it is like a really imperfect art and the result can like the handmade ceramics, not like the cast ceramics, but like the handmade it's the result is like different like every time. You can't really produce exactly the same. I mean, maybe you can. I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
I
yeah.
love that you bring I was just going there when I was thinking about AI, but yes, go on.
Yeah, yeah. And so, but like jewelry is like more exacting because like you're using molds and you're relying on that consistent results, especially when you're dealing with materials that are so expensive like gold. Did the tension between like the perfect and the imperfect like impact your collaboration at all?
This
Oh,
is
you're
so good.
laughing.
In fact,
It's
yeah,
I
because on
Do
the
you want to
ring,
take it?
are you going to talk about like the curve of the ring
Yeah, yeah,
or?
go for it, and then I
Yeah.
can add to it.
So when we were designing this ring, I actually have two versions of it. There we go. So here it is right there.
Mm.
It's the fold plate is sort of the base inspiration for the whole collection. And it's a plate. It's also the top of my caviar server. And it's a plate that I use my hands to make the curve in right after I throw. And I think that was sort of the crux of our design is how do you take something so imperfect and organic
to
and
make
like I
it into a
said,
mold.
translate
Yeah.
it consistently. So we started with something that was really perfect. And I think you're right. The tension, the most back and forth we had was, but how do we, it's a perfect circle. How do we change it? And so we created, do you see how that moves
Little
a
dent.
little bit there?
Hmm.
We went back and forth to make something that was so perfect imperfect so that
Yeah.
it looked like my hands had touched it. And honestly, it was so inspiring as an artist because I do these things really organically and naturally. But how it made me really think, what am I, when I look at the round piece, because I make everything perfect first. I was taught as a production potter. And so, and I actually would argue that you need to learn in art how to make something perfect to make the
Make it
imperfect look good. So let's say
100%.
you're throwing something on the wheel and you mess up and you say, oh, it's art. That rarely works. It's actually an altered state that looks to our human eye the most pleasing because it was perfect once and then you're intentionally making it imperfect. Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
we did the same process with the ring. We made it perfect, just like I throw the plate perfectly round. And then you have to study it and look at it and think, how do I make this look more organic? And so I actually had a lot of insight into my artistic process just designing it with Subi.
I think I had a little bit of, I saw it coming, is what I would say. Because I feel like all of us, I love that. Like I've been very fortunate. I've not done this for too long, but in the time that I've been a jewelry designer and had gold stories, I've had a fortunate like set of people I've collaborated with who have, been very passionate about the art. And I knew that about Erin going in. Like she pours her heart into making these things. So I was like, I don't want to disappoint her. I'm going to give her enough heads up. So you were absolutely right. Like I gave her context because we could make it. I know a lot of people do clay molds and whatnot to create jewelry, but with 14 karat gold, I don't want to mess it. I want the old resin mold, keep the old school method in process. So it's easy even for my bench jewelers when they're setting the stone or when they're polishing and when they're putting the band or, adding the necklace to it. So I had to set expectations that it's not going to look exactly the same, but we're going to try making it look as satisfying as possible to the organic shape of the play. And Erin was very patient with me through the whole process. Like she said, we made it in like a CAD design. And this happens only when we want to replicate or recreate a design. Otherwise, when I do some of my collections, I'm just sketching and then it goes straight to mold, or I make it by hand. These bangles, I just take and throw them and melt and do it. But when it's like something like as intricate as this ring and the shape and the fold, we made it perfect. We made the fold, but the fold was too sharp. It still looked very structured. We're like, let's file it. So there was a lot of, so the mold was made. Mold was more true to the shape that we wanted, but there was so much handwork that goes in this piece. And till right now, whoever places an order for this ring, it's not like take the mold, cast the piece, send it over. It's take the mold, cast the piece, and then my bench jewelers work on the filing. And there's also two tone to it. There is that tiny like speckled texture that Erin has on the corner of the fold. So we sit and do that. And then for the rest of the plate, there's a matte finish to it. So it's not polished. We mat it. And then when we set the stone, we set it flat. And we couldn't set a thicker stone, but it kind of works well because one of my original pieces or the first ever collection I had is a flat setting. So we went with the same setting because if we go any deeper, the plate will get deeper looking. So there was so much like thought into it. But it's like, it is a constant conversation. And, usually there could be a lot of frustration or like anger or like be like, hey, this is not working out. But I have to say this because, Erin was very, very, very fun, even in the stressful moment to work with. Be like, hey, you know what? I'm going to be open to it. I trust you. Let's try it this way. Let's try it that way. And like every step, as much as I could, like kept her in the loop and like showed her what we can. And Jewelry has some kind of imperfectness to it too, like stones, right? Each time we cut lapis or malachite, they're not going to look the same. I started adding that on the website now recently because I've had these conversations. Like it's actually as unique as the piece itself, because each time the stone is cut, you don't know how it's going to look. Like the lapis is stardust speckle can look different in each time you cut it. So that adds to the organic element as well. And yeah, it all worked out together, but there was definitely a whole conversation to be had about how to make this feel as organic as ceramics and not keep it like, as like a piece that was made out of a mold and just made into jewelry, like completely. Like there was a lot of like manipulating of the piece afterwards to make it as close as possible to Erin's art.
That's
A
really
really good
that's really
question.
cool.
It
That's
was
really
Yeah.
cool.
fun. I also feel like I want to give you a shout out to Subi because whenever we hit a roadblock, it's so delightful to find a collaboration partner where we go, okay, this is interesting. Let's get curious. Why is this not working? And let's figure it out together. And just sort of keeping that sort of open mind and that curiosity, I think resulted in some really beautiful jewelry.
Really
That's really
cool.
cool. I mean, yeah, I was going to ask you how the collaboration has impacted your creativity, but I think we just talked about that like a lot. That's really cool. And maybe we already answered this too, but did you run into any issues where you wanted to go a certain way creatively, but it didn't work for the collaboration? And maybe that's what we already just talked about. But were there any other roadblocks where you were like,
We
oh,
tried
this would be really
onyx.
cool, but not going to work? Sorry.
We tried onyx. Is I like you
Oh.
said, we've actually gone through the whole process. So to keep it crisp, I think we just tried a different stone while we were talking. Some things in theory sound so cool, and then we put it together, we're like, wait a minute, it doesn't feel right. And I
And
think
Mm.
that
when
happens often. And we
And
kept
it was
saying
the onyx and the silver, right?
silver,
So,
yes.
and that was such a fun exercise in letting go, don't you think, Subi? Because like I was like, there needs to be a stone in this, there needs to be a stone in this. But then we took the stone out
Yeah,
and
and it looked
wore
so
it.
much better.
It looks so much better. In fact, I wear this every day. It becomes sort of like this everyday kind of look. And then I wear the stone heirloom gold a lot, but it feels more like if I'm at a party or special. But I'm chasing my kids around with the silver all
Mm,
the time. And letting go of that preconceived notion that this must have a stone in it was really fun in a way, wasn't it?
mm.
Yeah, it was. And it was like quite stressful at the moment because
I
we were
know.
already gone into production. And I was like, wait a minute.
Oh.
But that actually kind of ties it all back into the beauty of doing something in a smaller scale, right? So we're not creating hundreds of pieces. Everything is made in small batches here in San Francisco. So there's a lot more control, expensive control, but it's still control over what we're calling. And we were talking to the actual people, the actual stone cutters, telling them, hey, we're not going ahead with this. We're going ahead with this. And then conversation between Erin and I, she put it perfectly. It was like letting go because it was so stuck in our head, but we're like, no, can't do it. It's not looking the way we wanted it to look.
That's so important to be able to do that too, because you can get really married to a certain idea. And then when it
Yeah.
starts to not work out, you're like, but wait, I'm going to force it to work out. But you really have to
Yeah.
let go at a certain point and
Yeah.
face the fact that
No,
we
you're
need to
right. And
shift.
I feel like when you're I do this often when I'm working by myself or when I'm creating a collection, just our, Gold Stories collection and not a collaboration, I often get just stuck. And there's
Mm.
no sounding, there's like a solopreneur problem. Like there's no sounding board to tell you, hey, it's time for you to move on.
Yes.
Until your conscience kicks in and be like, come on, it's been like 3 months. You have to let go of this idea. It was nice to have someone, and I think you learn through working with other people. Like I think we moved on, but we moved on quite quickly because I think there were two people like putting that idea into your head saying, hey, this is not working out. And we both needed that convincing.
It's almost like sometimes when I'm putting an outfit together for a party, I'll text a friend and I'll be like, I don't know, I just feel like something's off. And it's so helpful to get that third party input of like, yeah, that doesn't work together. Instead of you constantly like ruminating in your head, like I had this outfit idea, it must be. I find. when you
Yeah.
like that kind of self-expression, it comes out.
Yeah, I was actually just talking about that yesterday. Like in the Iconic Style Studio, we have these like outfit workshops, and I was showing like, oh, what are some mistakes that you made with your outfits? And I had this one outfit where I was like, I really wanted to do a lot of accessories, and so I put this outfit together, and I had like a ton. Like I had a belt, I had a brooch, I had these earrings, I had these like bracelets, like all of this stuff, and it had like pattern mixing. It was just like the whole night. Like I really wanted to be maximal, and it
Mhm.
just looked like a hot mess. And then there was like another outfit for me, like on a Monday, where I just threw together like this outfit, and it was just like, baggy pants, a hot pink cashmere turtleneck, and like a trench coat, and it
Sounds
just
great.
had, yeah, it just had this like flow to it that was much more, it seemed like more me, and it also just seemed more stylish, right? And so sometimes like you have like these ideas, and it's, and the point of me talking about this was that you have to make those mistakes, like you have to
Yeah.
explore and you have to try in
Yes.
order to know. And if you never try, then you're not really, your style
Yeah.
can never be exactly like the best it could be.
Yeah,
Right. And
100%.
that's true amongst like all like creative practices.
All
And so
creative. You have to make the mistakes to triangulate exactly what you want.
Yeah.
exactly.
And I
Exactly.
change at least three outfits before I go anywhere. So it's like
Bring them in my
it's my
car.
new thing.
That's so
So,
funny. And that always reminds me of Heidi. We had Heidi,
welcome to Heidi.
welcome to
Yeah.
Heidi Clements. She's like a hugely popular influencer in her 60s, style influencer, and she was our very first guest on the podcast, and she said that she never changes her outfit. She gets her idea,
Wow.
she puts it on,
Wow.
she does her video, and never changes it. I'm just like, I don't understand how you do that.
She's
Oh, well, I'm
good.
on the other end of the spectrum. I live in Oakland, and a lot of times I'm in San Francisco for events, and I literally bring an extra outfit just in case.
Yeah. I know you do because I see it in your bag.
Yeah. Well, sometimes also I'm hauling a bunch of ceramic boxes, and I'm like, what if
Mm.
like I step on my skirt and it like I don't know, I just have these ideas in my head, or like what if I'm too sweaty after I've been doing all this work? I always have a backup.
That's
Yeah,
so
you
smart.
saw that.
Yeah,
Also with
and
the weather.
I think the weather, that's what I was saying. This week it's been insane. Like it looks sunny from your window, but then when you step out, you're hit by like frosty 50 degrees. And I was like, I gotta
Yeah.
go back
I know
Yeah.
we're such wimps. We're like 50 degrees is cold.
in. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's why we live here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Like it's funny because like with like outfits, like I was just actually thinking about this. Like whenever I'm trying, that's when my outfits go wrong. And so
Yeah,
it's like, but it's like developing that skill of being able to throw shit. It's like being like at the wheel of like when you're like doing ceramics, it's like being on the wheel. It's almost like getting into that zone where you're not like thinking, but there's like
yeah,
no thought in your head. And like
Yeah.
that's when you come
Mm.
together and getting that flow. That's when you
Flow.
have
yeah,
The
that good
flow
shape.
state,
And
100%.
exactly. And so sometimes with style, I mean, for me, at least with style, it's like whenever I'm like putting together an outfit and I'm in that zone, it's always like on point.
better. Yeah,
But when I'm like trying too hard, that's more of my messy experimentation. And I should just learn to like trust myself and be like, you know what? I'm just gonna go with it and go with the
yeah,
flow. Uh,
Yeah. And like it's funny because we do that for special events, but that's when we probably should not, we should experiment with that trying like other times and then just kind of like let it go for the
event.
special
Yeah.
events, but it doesn't always work out that way.
I
You
always
know,
have this aspiration to have, do you remember Cher's closet in Clueless where like it
yeah.
Yeah.
and I think it was a really old computer model where like the outfit would pop up. I always have this aspiration of creating like a photo album on my phone with like all the different derivations that I've had with these core pieces so that I could be like, oh, I did put it with this and it looked good with that. You know, because like 20 minutes before the event, you're like, wait, what do I put with this skirt? And it's sort
Yeah.
of a little bit of pressure.
yeah. Well,
Totally.
take daily outfit photos.
I think I'm going to start
Yeah.
doing
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. No,
It's a game changer.
I really want
Oh,
to do that. I want to be, some days I'm like, I love the outfit. I've actually, like you said, the days that I've never thought about it, I put it together, so much color, so much jewelry, and I actually end up loving it. And I have zero proof of that even happening because I just forgot to take a, especially when I'm with the kids on
Yeah, the daily
weekends.
outfits. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, this is such a comfortable yet fun outfit to go to like Discovery Museum in Sausalito. I wish I had taken a photo, but there are 100 photos of the kids in their crazy tracksuits. But
yeah. Yeah,
That's
no,
amazing.
definitely. Just even like a photo in the mirror, like just
Yeah.
like snap it, like without your, I think like a lot of times without your face is like easier because like a lot of times when people take
Mm,
photos with their face in it, they get caught, oh, I'm making a weird face or
yeah.
my smile is not great or something like that. It's like,
Yeah.
no, you just want the outfit. Like that's all you want. Yeah, so one thing that I really, and I think our listeners would be really interested to hear is like, where you get your creative inspiration from and how it's changed since you've gotten older.
Ooh.
great question.
If it has changed.
If it
Yeah.
has, yeah, I don't want to put any ideas in your head, so I'm not going to answer personally.
Let me think.
So,
I think I'm more, I don't know if the inspiration has changed, but I'm more organized older. I have sort of embraced bringing around a bullet journal and a pen in my, or like a sketch pad in my purse. And I feel like when I was younger, maybe I would hang on to the idea better or remember it better, but now it's just, it's got to get on the paper so I don't forget it. That's one way that it's changed. And so sort of embracing like that it can come from anywhere at any time and even be something that I hadn't, like that's not current, right? Like I'm just sort of daydreaming and thinking about something that happened a couple of years ago or a couple of weeks ago. The other thing is that beautiful time at 3 a.m. that I am now like sort of lucidly half awake, trying to get back to sleep has for me turned out to be a really creative, like lucid dreaming time if I can relax and not focus on the fact that I'm feeling slight insomnia. So that time
God.
laying in bed and nobody's bothering me. I have three kids. Nobody's wanting my attention. And I'm just laying there and I'm just like deep breathing and relaxing. Ideas actually come to me then. That's something new. That didn't happen to me in my 20s and 30s.
uh,
That's because you slept through the night when you were in your 20s and
Exactly.
30s.
I wasn't awake at 2:30 or 3 a.m.
Exactly.
oh my God, you're
to
so
have my
lucky.
creative bursts.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh, I wish I could do that. Is that something you've like engineered or you just noticed it start happening? Because if I could use that
Yeah.
time that turns into insomnia, that would be so much more productive.
I think, let's see. So is it engineered or is it? I think it just sort of started happening and
Mm.
I've been doing a lot of breathing exercises unrelated to the inspiration to try to get me back to sleep. So like
Mhm.
box breathing, I am trying to trigger my parasympathetic nervous system. So I'm holding my breath for a really long time and getting more CO2 into my lungs and then doing like short breaths. It's something I'm working with actually post jaw surgery because I had jaw surgery last year. My whole
Ooh.
structure of my face is different and I'm learning to breathe differently in different positions of my tongue on the roof of my mouth. I can go into it in a lot of detail. It's a self project, but I did notice that all of those breathing techniques decrease my anxiety and I don't get in that loop of like I'm not sleeping, I'm supposed to be sleeping, why am I
Mm.
not sleeping, and then it increased something that was already happening with my inspiration and my thought. The key though is to remember exactly what I was thinking about when I wake up.
Yeah.
So I've toyed around with having my journal on my bedside stand, but then it wakes me up too much because then I'm like writing and I'm doing physical things and I really can't get back to sleep.
Yeah.
Not only having the thoughts, but then remembering to record them when you wake up.
Yeah, no, I hear you on that. I think it has to do with like your brain being able to like roam and like to, because like I don't know, for me, like a lot of times it happens like on my walks and stuff. Like I
Yes.
go on I go on a daily walk every day, and that's when like things happen, just because I'm just not doing anything, just giving yourself that space. But I'm awake, so I have my notes up, so I put things in my my notes app. But yeah, I think that that's like a really great discovery that happens when you get older, how like what state of mind you're in and like what your habits are. And I think for a lot of people, they are more intentional with their habits like as they get older.
Yeah, that's what I meant by saying that I'm more organized. I think
Yeah.
the way you're saying it is almost better, like more intentional. And also, again, like, don't you love this age? I just feel like I know myself. So it's like coming home a little bit in a really beautiful way. And part of that is knowing this is how I work best. This is, can I capitalize on that? Like, can I give myself more space to do these things and
Yeah,
be
instead of sort of fighting against it, working with your habits and
there's
the way you
less
work.
shoulds, like I should do this. I
Yeah.
should, and more of like settling into yourself, authenticity, and then as a result, more inspiration.
I have one last question that we only have a few minutes, but maybe if you could sum this question up like in a couple sentences. What are the aspects of your work that make it uniquely yours? So in other words, like what are some of the hallmarks of your particular brand of creativity?
Yeah, I'm gonna go off of something you actually mentioned right after my spiel of transition and where I'm at. I think very organized chaos is where I'm at creatively. I do put myself in chaotic, uncomfortable situations, and I somehow come out of it thriving. Not in a this ties back to the earlier part as well. Like as you get older, you get comfortable in ways you do certain things. And for me, it was not just age; it was also becoming a mother of two kids back to back. They're 18 months apart, they're 3 and 5, and I started a business at the same exact time. It was like I put so much on my plate, so I had to be a little more structured than not structured. But I started seeing creativity in the most chaotic moments. Like I kind of started picking up from like what comparing it to a lot of where I came from as a kid and my childhood and my family, my upbringing, because I'm translating that to my kids currently. And I'm also translating that to my design or ideology or creativity. So it's a lot. If I have to summarize it, I can think of words, but I don't know if it's going to be, sentences. But I'm at a place where I'm driving creativity from just memories and then everyday chaos and then just the beauty of I know we are all constantly talking about a lot of negative things that are wrong currently with this world, but there's also this beautiful layer of all the good things that are happening, how people are coming together on these wonderful like platforms that have been created. I'm able to stay connected with my family that are thousands of miles away.
Mm.
So just just looking at the positive part of the world, I think those are the three things. So yeah, memories, everyday chaos, and just I'm like a sucker for positivity right now. So that's where my creative energy is coming from.
Love
I
that.
don't know if that
Nice.
made sense, but
Yeah, yeah. How about you, Erin?
I feel like for me, what makes my brand specifically me? I mean, we all have our stories and our lives, and we get to write the story of our life. And what makes my art specifically me, I think, is the trajectory that I took. The fact that I learned as a production potter really young and then surveyed what kind of life I would have as a production potter and decided not to do that and went through this long period of law, which I enjoyed and then really didn't. And so when I came back to my art full time, I was like starving.
Mm.
And it was like feeding a desert. Like all this creativity had built up and just didn't really have the outlet it needed. And so I took what I didn't like and didn't want to be part of and created my whole art ethos out of it. So it's not, everything doesn't look the same. Everything, I make collections. Like you sit down at a restaurant and you notice that your plate is subtly different than your dining partner's plate. I don't ever want to have like a full set of 30 that look exactly alike. I did that in my brief stint in production pottery and it didn't feed my soul. So I feel like for me, it's my art is like everyone's art is the trajectory of their life. It's taking, for me, it's taking something perfect and altering it into something beautiful and finding beauty in the imperfect and the organic.
Love that. That's amazing. Well, thank you so much, both of you, for joining us. This has been so fascinating and fun to chat with you.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. Thank
You
you
got
for
us all
coming.
thinking now. Today's going to be
I know.
ending up being
I
a
know today's
creative
going to be an
day.
explosion.
Awesome.
So cool. Yeah. Well, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. And I feel so inspired by both of you. Where can people find you?
People
Uh,
can find me on Instagram, Erin Hupp Ceramics, and also my website, erinhuppceramics.com.
and yes, everyone can find me on Instagram, Gold Stories, and then website goldstoriesjewelry.com. We're trying to get into the TikTok world, so you could find us there as well, Gold Stories Jewelry. And then, yeah, if you want to just join in on my everyday chaos, you can find me at Subikksha.
Wonderful. Thank you so much
Awesome.
for
Thank you so
joining me.
much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us.